Every once in a while, someone will ask me if I'm going to do a video recording of my podcast. And I do the immediately no. And it's the reason why I decline to do Zoom meetings with video and Teams meetings with video. You cannot get me to in my own house where I have been lounging or working, or I just look, however, I look very dressed down, like currently I'm doing this in my pajamas. You cannot get me to put my headscarf on in my house. I don't want to. I've got some explaining to do. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone, back to Ayana Explains It All, the podcast where I try to make the world make more sense. Although lately it's getting quite difficult to do that. Not only because the world is fucked up, but because you people don't read. You don't read. So if you're not going to read, at least listen to a podcast where I keep you abreast on all of the vital social and economic and political issues that people are ranting and raving about, or things that you should know, but you don't know because you don't use a search engine. I am available. No, I am not available. The podcast, Ayana Explains It All, is available on 12 different streaming platforms, including YouTube. Yes, YouTube is a streaming platform. Also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, Cast FM, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and iHeartRadio. You can find me there at Ayana Explains It All. That's Ayana Explains It All. I'm also on TikTok at Ayana Explains It All Pod. I'm also on Instagram at Ayana_explains_ etc. It all. And my personal social medias, so many. I am Lawgirl, LAWGURRL on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, and I am Ayana Fakir on Facebook. Now, my last name is spelled Fakhir. That is Fakhir for anyone who wants to Google me, look me up, find out what it is I do for a living. It's really boring stuff, but I am an attorney. I'm also a single mama. I'm a Black single mama Muslim lawyer, born and raised in the hood, but now living in the suburbs, tending to my little garden and my little family. And so like and subscribe and share and rate and review and do all those lovely, wonderful things for me so that I can grow my audience. Give me 5 stars everywhere. Give me great reviews. Or you can trash me. I take trash reviews too. I take whatever. I know that in the sea of podcasts that not everyone can be liked, and I do say things here that you probably will not like. I guarantee it. I also cuss a little bit, so if that's not your thing, then pretend those words are bleeped out. But also share this podcast with friends and families and coworkers and neighbors and everyone except the kids. Don't let the kids listen to this smut, really. It's terrible. Not for kids. Rated R is what this is. But so yeah, I'm not kidding about that hijab thing. I declined many Zoom requests and team meetings with my employer because I don't feel like putting on my headscarf. So I just do the audio thing. I will not do video. You know, when I am at home, I am really, really dressed down. Like when I'm outdoors, I'm pretty covered up. I'll even wear dresses a lot, whatever. I dress modestly according to my standards. The older I get, the less I care about what I dress, about how I dress anyway. I've been working from home now for over 2 years, and dressing up for me is just like, what's the point? So I'll put on a t-shirt and some jeans and a headscarf and some makeup and some sneakers, and that's it. I used to dress up, honey. Woo! I used to wear like these beautiful dresses, and I still have all of them. I'm hoping someday that I will be able to use them again. But I would wear beautiful dresses and jewelry and these really beautiful headscarves, and I would just be and now I'm just like, whatever, dude. Whatever I can, my scarf is just basic. I don't do anything fancy anymore because I don't know. Once you get out of the habit of doing the fancy stuff, it's kind of hard to get back into it. So I do whatever works. But, it's my choice. Everything is my choice. Where I live, who I see, who I'm friends with, where I work, it's all a choice. Covering my head is a choice. I have been in hijab. Well, I have been covering since I was a very little girl. I think maybe when I was, I want to say I was 7 years old is when I started. It may have been earlier than that. It's when I started wearing my headscarf. And to me, it was natural. It wasn't a big deal because all the women around me were doing it. My mother, her friends, the women at the masjids, their kids, their daughters, everybody was wearing headscarves, so it wasn't a big deal for me. It was a big deal for people who didn't wear a headscarf and who didn't understand why we wore headscarves. I mean, the amount of prejudice, just the awful, disgusting bigotry me and my friends and my family, the women of my family and the women of our community faced because of our headscarves is just, it's too much to count. It's too much to name. It's too much to talk about. I mean, I remember when me and some friends were on the street playing, we were on the sidewalk and there were these people walking down the street. They looked like they had just come from church or they were going to church. And it was like three black people, a man, and elderly man and two elderly women, and they were so disgusted by us that they were like, ew, 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 and then walked in the street to get away from us. Just some little girls outside playing in our hijabs, and they didn't want to be near us. I mean, and what I faced in school and just from, kids in my neighborhood growing up. I'm from East Cleveland, Ohio. I was born in Cleveland, raised in East Cleveland. But I was always the subject of ridicule and taunting and people yanking off my headscarf or calling me names, saying all kinds of nasty things about me just because I wore a headscarf. I mean, that was it. That was it. I wasn't, into drugs or alcohol. I wasn't truant. I talked a lot. So, I mean, that's why I'm doing this podcast because I love to talk. But that was it. People hated me because they didn't understand. Number one, they didn't understand why I wore a headscarf. And number two, it was so different and so abnormal to them. It was very normal to me, but it was abnormal to them. And so they made fun of me, picked on me, whatever you want to call it. I was bullied, I was teased, and I was taunted mercilessly, endlessly for years just because I wore a headscarf. And I could explain to people over and over and over and over and over again. I do this because I'm Muslim, because I'm commanded to. People don't give a fuck, okay? And I was raised in a very black community, and the prejudice I faced from black people was just astounding because it's like, hey, black people. I mean, we face enough of this shit from outside forces. Why are we doing it to each other? But that's an ongoing issue in the black community is self-hatred, hatred of other black people, critiquing other black people. And in fact, I'm going to be talking later about one thing that a lot of black people are doing that we should stop doing because it is nonsensical, it's humiliating, it's awful. This entire podcast episode will be about the hysteria over women's hair, from hijabs to bonnets. Why? why people are hysterical over what women choose to do as far as covering our hair or not covering our hair, right? Because for me, at least, it is a choice. So that's what I'm going to get into because something pretty radical, something pretty awful happened. And it's an awful thing that happened in Iran. A young woman was arrested for not properly, according to their rules, not wearing the headscarf properly, and she was arrested by the Iranian morality police, and she died while in their custody. Now, law enforcement says that she died of a heart attack, but she was clearly assaulted. I mean, you could look at her and see that she suffered greatly at the hands of someone, and not usually do 21-year-old girls have heart attacks. So I'm less inclined to believe that and more inclined to believe that she wouldn't conform. And so they beat her to death. They killed her. I mean, this is how they get people to conform. You conform or you die. And so a lot of protests have erupted all over the world, actually, in solidarity for the Persian women of Iran. There are protests in Iran which are illegal, but women in Iran are taking to the streets and they are risking their lives. Really, there have been some who have been murdered protesting what happened to this beautiful young woman, Masha Amini, in Tehran, Iran, and they are removing their headscarves, which is illegal, in public in Iran, and they are burning their headscarves, and they are cutting their hair in solidarity with the movement towards ending the modest dress code, or die rule of Iran. And I wanted to say something before I get into this because while because it's important that people understand what's happening here. A woman was killed because of the way she wore the headscarf. She was killed because of the way she wore the headscarf. Now, for me, being someone who wore my headscarf since I was a child, now that I am an adult, I'm in my 40s, I could, if I wanted to, remove my headscarf. I could take it off. And for me, it is because hijab, like anything else in this religion of Islam, like anything else in any religion, everything is a choice. I mean, God makes clear the wrong path from the righteous path. And so you choose the righteous path, but you have free will, you have choice. You have choices. And I am pro-choice. I am pro every choice. I am not going to be someone who stands in the way of somebody who wants to do something that is do what they want or do what is in their best interest. I'm not going to be a barrier or a roadblock. And the one thing I can say about the United States, for all of its ills, there are many. I have never been told by anyone in law enforcement or at university or at law school or at work to remove my headscarf. I have never been ordered by anyone to remove my headscarf. Even when I was at the airport, they said, you don't have to remove your headscarf. The woman said, just let me feel underneath it. Fine. But here, my entire life, while I have faced prejudice, while I have faced bullying and bigotry from the human beings that inhabit this awful country, I have not been told by anyone in government that I will be arrested if I don't take off my headscarf, that I will be arrested if I don't wear my headscarf a certain way. Never been told that. And why? Because America is a democracy. The United States is a democracy. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to petition your government, freedom, freedom, freedom. And while sometimes those freedoms are encroached upon by the government, encroached upon by employers, by schools, when it comes to my headscarf, it has never happened to me. I know that it has happened. It has happened where, women who are in police custody have been ordered to remove their headscarf. Or women who have, when they go to take their license photo, their driver's license photo, they're told to remove their headscarf. But that's wrong. It's a violation of our civil rights. You don't have to remove your headscarf to take a driver's license photo. You don't have to remove your headscarf when you're being detained by police. Now, when you're in a jail cell, they'll probably remove it, or they probably will give you something to wear instead of it. But there are obvious concerns for what you might do with a headscarf, the same reason why they won't let you have shoestrings in your shoes. And that has been the subject of legal wrangling in the past. But I know that prisons have accommodated hijab wearing, and hospitals accommodate hijab wearing for doctors, for nurses. Every job you can think of accommodates a woman's desire, choice, right to cover because of her religion. So the idea that a woman would be murdered because she didn't wear the hijab correctly, or because she protested wearing the hijab at all, it is very foreign to me. And I don't mean that because it's in Iran, but it has never happened to me. I have never experienced that. I've only faced prejudice from people who want me to take it off, or who don't understand it, or who find it weird or queer or whatever the hell else they can think of. I've been called a witch. I've been called a gypsy. I've been called so many ugly names. Or my favorite, I've been called a nun. Now, I wear some pretty radical hijabs. They're not something you would ever see on a nun, probably. I know nuns have different color habits that they wear. I went to Notre Dame, so I saw nuns in and out of habits every day. And there were, I think I saw like brown ones, and I want to say definitely white. I think I saw some other colors too, but there was nothing about me that said nun at all. There was nothing about me that said Catholic nun. But, people are trying to be funny, get their little jokes off. Okay, hey, I'm a nun, ha, 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 whatever. But don't use someone's race, religion, culture as an indictment against someone. Don't call me a gypsy because you think it's funny. The gypsies are a people. Don't call me a nun because you think it's funny. Catholics are a people. But this is how it starts. It starts as jokes. It starts as words, and then it becomes actions, where suddenly you're seeing things in the news where women are being ordered to remove their headscarf. And then you're seeing it in the law where, cities are passing ordinances, or states are passing laws that say you have to remove it, or people are telling you at the airports when you do the security checks to, you have to remove it, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it starts off as words and jokes and mean little hurtful things, and then it becomes, before you know it, it's law. Now in Iran, there was a revolution in the 1970s, and before that, before the revolution, before the Ayatollah took over, Iran was a free society, very free, open. It wasn't a theocracy. It was just a place that people lived, and they had the sea and they had the beach, and the women could wear swimsuits and they could style their hair up, and they had, it was an open society. That's what it was. It was an open society. And then the Ayatollah took over the revolution. And after that revolution was that women were told to cover or be jailed. You're going to cover or you're going to be jailed. Period. A lot of people fled Iran. Some came to the United States. You'll see a large population of Persians in the United States. Their families fled after the revolution because they did not want to live in a theocracy. They did not want to live under the religious rule of an evil dictator. I know you can call him a king or a prime minister, whatever the hell you want to call him. Call him a president, whatever. He's a dictator. But the United States and other Western countries have managed to keep Iran under their thumb with sanctions and whatnot. And it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous the things that they are willing to do to their people in the name of God. Now, I've studied Islam my entire life, from when I was a baby, from when I was a toddler, elementary school. I mean, drilled into us. I learned so much about God. One thing I have never known God to be is an oppressor. One thing I have never known God to be is one who loves oppressors. He does not. One thing I have never known God to be is cruel. He is not. One thing I have never known God to be is spiteful, hateful. He is not. One thing I have never known God to be is restrictive. He is not. He gives us free will. He gives us choice. But most of all, he gives us guidance on what to do and how to interact with people in society. We get economic guidance, religious guidance, social guidance, political guidance, how to treat our enemies, how to treat non-Muslims, how to treat women, how to treat babies, how to treat parents, how to treat children, how to treat your spouse. Everything is laid out. Everything is laid out. So how they got to the point where they're telling people to cover or die, to be modest or die or be jailed, how they got to arresting women for not properly wearing a hijab, I do not know, except that in a patriarchal society, men feel threatened by the presence of women, and they're going to do whatever it takes to keep women subdued. And that is by removing their voice, and that is by covering them up, and that is by controlling their behavior, their actions, their speech, the way that they dress, their education. That is what they're going to do, and that is what is happening in Iran and other countries in that region. Afghanistan is one. The rights of women are severely restricted simply because they are women. And although Allah in the Quran elevates women, mothers, wives, daughters, if you look at some countries in the Islamic world, you will not see women who have been elevated. You see women who have been pushed away, tucked away. They think they're protecting us by tucking us away. They think that they are saving us from harm by keeping us in the house, but they're not. Women are not being educated. They're not allowed to vote. They're not allowed to work. They can't hold political positions. They can't be journalists. They can't be photographers. They can't play sports. Can't go to school. And if you leave your house, you better be wearing a certain item of clothing or you're going to get arrested. You're going to get beaten. You might die. It's sickening. It's sick. And that is not my Islam. I don't recognize the brand of Islam they're pushing in these countries because my Islam, women are free. And I say my Islam, but that is Islam. Women are free. Men are free. We are free people. Yeah, people look at Islam and they go, oh, there are all these rules. They're not rules. They're ways to keep you in the remembrance of God. What are the things that take you away from the remembrance of God? We don't drink alcohol. We don't gamble. Of course, people will do all these things anyway, because again, like I said, everything is a choice. God shows us the right path from the wrong path, and you will choose what you want. And you will be treated accordingly. That's that. But when it comes to hijab, it's so controversial because nobody could understand why a woman would want to do that to herself. I am for the right of women to do what we want, when we want, how we want. It's not up to the government. It's not up to our peers. It is not up to our partners, our spouses, our children. Whoever is directing us, whoever is guiding us, for some people, they don't believe in anything. I am for those women too. Now, as the story of Masha Amini was making the rounds on social media and international news outlets, something happened that I found revitalizing. Like, it really got me going. It really got me going. Like, it was energizing. It was impactful. It was seeing women all over the world speak up for the women of Iran, the Persian women of Iran. Now, Persian women, I don't know if you know any Persian women, or if you're a Persian woman and you're listening to this, they are very strong women, very strong, smart, hardworking women. And what has happened to Masha Amini has really been like an earthquake. It has really erupted something in the women of Iran, and they are fighting back. They're fighting back. They're risking their lives. They're risking their safety. They're risking everything fighting back. But what is also happening is something that happens with any kind of protest, with any kind of movement in popular culture, with any kind of injustice that happens to someone that everyone latches on to. People are doing the performative allyship, and I am so sick of this shit. I'm so sick of this. No, you do not have to cut your hair. in solidarity with Masha Amini and the women of Iran. You don't have to do it. And here's why you don't have to do it. Because there are women all over the world who are begging, fighting for the right to wear hijab and to cover our heads. And you all are silent during those struggles. You're silent. You're quiet. The silence could kill, to be quite honest. That's how sharp it is. That's how loud it is. When women have been fighting to wear hijab in India and Canada and France and Belgium and Sweden and Turkey, women have been fighting to wear hijab. There's even a World Hijab Day. I don't see any of you motherfuckers who are on TikTok and on Facebook and Instagram chopping your hair off, putting on a hijab and saying, I am for the right of women to cover their heads if they want to. I don't see it. I never see it. I look for it. I don't see it. When these laws are being passed all around the world to prohibit women wearing the burqa or the burkini or the khimar or any kind of covering, dressing modestly, anything that they would associate with Islam, anything that would make their society look like they are accommodating a religion. Women want to be seen in hijab also. But you don't stand up for us. You don't show up for us. You are not showing up for us. So this performative allyship shit needs to stop. Because if you're not going to be for all of us, we don't need you on our team. There are enough Muslim women in this world who can fight this battle without you. We don't need you. Thanks. Bye. I'm sick of this. I saw a video yesterday, and this black girl, this black woman who I was growing to respect her platform. She shaved her hair off, and I thought, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, you think it's cute. Oh, you think that you're aligning yourself with the struggle of Muslim women in the Muslim world and around the world. You are not. You are not. You are not. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Because Muslim women have been fighting for the right just to choose. To choose. There are women who are not allowed to go to school because they want to wear their hijab in school, and the government will not let them. This is happening in India right now. Girls are not allowed to wear their headscarf in Indian public schools. And despite the fact that it doesn't matter if they're Muslim, they're Indian. Muslims all over the world, especially Muslim women, are facing some of the most disgusting and awful discrimination, prejudice, wild bigotry, just wild oppression, all in the name of crushing Islam. They want the world to be rid of us for some reason. People don't like us. People don't like Muslims. They don't like us. And I mean, I was going to say something really silly, but our religion doesn't teach us not to like you at all. It tells us to be fair and just and do what is right by our enemies, by non-Muslims, by our neighbors, by anyone who is entitled to receive justice and fairness and what is right. We are told to do that. Doesn't matter if you're Muslim. Doesn't matter. Now, there are some pockets of the Islamic community, the larger Ummah, that have gone off on their own little retreat into the woods, into extremism. But let me tell you, that is in every religion. Every country has some religious extremist nut job factory where they're churning these people out, and they're clamping down on freedom of expression, on sexuality, on genders, on what people say, what people wear, what people do, where people work. It's everywhere. Religious extremism is everywhere. And there are wars being fought for control of countries based on religion. There are laws being mulled over to set up a preferred religion in a country. Right now, in our own Congress, there's a fight to make English the national language and Christianity the official religion of the United States. Neither is true. Neither is true. But that's why I love it here. That's one of the few reasons why I love it, is because of the rich diversity. You could be anybody or anything and fit right in. But this push to make this country a Christian country, to make our laws Christian based, we're not going to go for it. It's going to be a law for all of us, or it's not going to exist. That's what America is. America is for everyone. It's not just for people you like. It's not just for people who are like you. And with all due respect to people of every religion and every race and every culture and every nationality, we belong here. Not just because I was born here, but I belong here because I am here. And even through all of the taunting and teasing and people calling me all kinds of dreadful names, I never once removed my headscarf. Because I love it. Because I feel like it protects me. I feel like modesty protects me. And that is my choice. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. You have to respect my choice to dress as I want. And this is something that's circulating the Black community as well. Recently, I've been, this is where I learned what people are talking about. And unfortunately, people are talking about the same thing every day. Please stop talking about Black women wearing hair bonnets. Did you know there was a time when Black women were forced by law to cover their head because their hair was seen as seductive to white men? This was in the 1700s in the French Louisiana area, before the Louisiana Purchase. Enslaved free women were told they had to cover their head. That was the law, because they didn't want white men being seduced by Black women. And what Black women would do is they would find these beautiful scarves, these silk scarves, these patterned scarves, and they would wear those on their head, and somehow they still became seductive to men. Because, I mean, we're women. Men will go after a woman who is fully clothed. You could be in a burqa, and men will still wonder and fantasize and want to know what's underneath there and try to find out. It's no longer, okay, she's covered, so I'm going to leave her alone. No. No, 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 no. No one has ever left me alone because I'm covered. I'll tell you that. But there was a time when Black women were forced to cover their heads. And now Black women are choosing to cover our heads with hair bonnets, because hair bonnets preserve our hairstyles. That's what they do. They preserve our hairstyles. So if you see a black woman out at the airport in a hair bonnet, it's because when she gets on the airplane, she doesn't want her hair being smushed or smashed or ruined by the airplane seat. I know that when I get in my car and I sit in the seat and I have my head pressed against the seat, the back part of the seat, it smashes my hair, smashes it, and I look ridiculous. Even under my scarf, it looks ridiculous, and I have to adjust my hair. But it keeps our hair intact. But men, of course, are telling black women, and black women, some black women are doing this too. They're telling black women, hey, if you want to be loved, you'll take that thing off. If you want someone to take you seriously, you'll take that thing off. If you want someone to find you attractive, you'll take that thing off. And it's the same thing that I've been told as a Muslim woman. If you want someone to love you, you'll cover more. If you want someone to want to marry you, you'll be modest, you'll dress modest, you'll act modest. It's always if. Hey, guess what? What if I don't want anyone to love me? I love me enough for myself. What you need to be teaching women is self-love. Us learning to love ourselves without a care for what anyone else thinks. That is what is most important. I don't give a fuck if I'm wearing a hijab, if I'm wearing scrubs, if I have on a hair bonnet or a hair net or no hair at all. I'm going to love me. Help women to love ourselves. Teach us what self-love is instead of tearing us down and threatening us with the withdrawal of affection and love because of how we're dressed. Leave black women alone about our hair, number one. Number two, leave black women alone. Leave black women alone. No one needs to be out here telling black women that they are not worthy of love and affection because they're wearing a hair bonnet. The same way that no one needs to be out here telling a Muslim woman that she's going to be killed or jailed if she doesn't wear her headscarf properly. Do you see what's happening? Women are being threatened every day, everywhere we go, everything we do. We're being threatened because of the way we dress or don't dress, because of how we look or don't look, because of how we talk or don't talk. What is it about women? What is it specifically about Muslim women that you hate so much? What is it specifically about black women that you hate so much? I can think of one thing, because we are powerful. We are powerful. We are smart. We are impactful. We are hardworking. We know how to do a lot of things, but we are powerful, and that scares you. Because you know, if women have too much power or all the power, the first thing they're going to do is dispense with your ass. And that scares you. Now, I can go through the Quran and tell you all of the Quranic verses about how hijab is obligatory, how God says hijab is obligatory. But guess what? God also says in the second surah of the Quran, Baqarah, the cow, that there is no compulsion in religion. You either do it or you don't. There's no extremism in religion. You take the middle path. You don't veer too far to the left. You don't veer too far to the right. You stay in the middle. Why? Because he does not like oppressors. Religious extremism is oppression. Telling a woman that she's not going to have a husband because she doesn't cover, that's extremism. Telling a woman she's not going to be loved because she wears a hair bonnet, that's extremism. And I see it every fucking day. I've seen it my entire life. people telling me how far I can get wearing a hijab or how far I can get in the Islamic community dressing the way that I dress, because I have experimented with how I wear my hijab. I never took it off, but I experimented with how I wore it and being told that it wasn't good enough. If you want to come into this masjid, if you want to be accepted here, you'll wear your scarf like this. And me saying, fuck it, I don't care. I am so tired, so tired. I am done. I am done. I am done. If women have to live without love and affection and husbands and support from our community because we made choices that were in our best interest, then so fucking be it. So be it. So be it. I mean, I just told you, women are cutting off their hair, aligning themselves with the freedom movement of women in Iran. We'll get rid of our hair. We'll get rid of damn near everything to be free. Is affection nice? Yeah, affection is wonderful. Is love nice? Yeah, oh yeah. Being married? Yeah, I've been married before. It can be nice. But I will live without every single one of those things if it means I get to be free, if it means I get to dress how I want, to be who I want, to live how I want. If it means I get to choose what is in my best interest and what is right for me, I will give up everything. I don't care. I have been oppressed. I have been abused. I have been treated poorly. I don't ever want to be in that world ever again. I have been told what to wear. I've been told how to act, been told how to think. I don't ever want to be in that world ever again. It is daunting. It is awful. It's miserable. I will never live for another person ever again. I will not live for anyone's approval. I will not live for anyone's acceptance of me. And right now I'm speaking to every woman. You want to wear a bonnet? Wear a bonnet. Wear 10 bonnets. And if somebody says something to you, guess what? You don't take it in. Those words don't even hit you because you don't believe that about yourself. You don't believe that you are not worthy of love and affection. You don't believe that you're not worthy of a partner because you're wearing a hair bonnet outside. I mean, listen to that. How ridiculous does that sound? It sounds very ridiculous. And it's just another way to oppress Black women. Controlling how women dress is just one of the many ways societies and governments and religions, or religious leaders rather, try to control women. Now, I have Muslim women friends, lots of them. Some wear hijab, some don't. I love them all the same because Islam is in your heart first before it is anywhere else. The outward expressions of what you feel on the inside sometimes result in you wanting to cover yourself. But it's not for everybody. Not everybody can do it. It takes an inordinate amount of courage, as you can tell from my voice and my story. It takes an inordinate amount of courage to do it every day. It takes people staring at you, literally looking you dead in your eye wherever you go. It was happening to me so much that I especially after 9/11, I developed an anxiety disorder. It was a lot. It was a lot. Like more than I had dealt with ever in my life. And to this day, people are still looking. They want to touch my scarf. They want to touch my scarf. Why are you touching my scarf? You know what it feels like? It feels like a cotton pair of underwear. It's cotton. Sometimes it's rayon. Sometimes it's polyester. You probably got some of that in your house. Go touch it when you get home. But for that reason, I always feel like I have to dress it up. I have to make it look good so I don't look, shabby because I'm covered. I already look weird. So if I dress it up, then people will accept me. And it goes back to this game of I feel like I have to live for other people's acceptance, and I don't ever want to do that again, and I'm not going to do it. You're gonna get whatever look I got. And I encourage all women, especially Black women, especially Muslim women, to push back on the notion that you do not have a choice because you are afraid. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to live and look as you want. And to my Muslim sisters, I say this with great love. Please, if you want to wear hijab, wear it. These young girls in India who refuse to remove their headscarf are staying home from school. They're not being promoted to the next grade. They're not being allowed to go to school because they want to cover. And people will say, oh, well, they're being used as political pawns. No, they're not. It is important for them. They brought their case all the way to the India Supreme Court. And of course, the court ruled in the favor of the country. The rule is no headscarves in public schools, which makes it very important for them to have religious private schools. And then when we have religious private schools, people go, oh, well, they're making mini terrorists. No, motherfucker. We're trying to keep our women safe. We're trying to create an environment where our people feel welcomed and loved and accepted and free to be who they are. Because when we go out into public, when we're in public, people are telling us that we look weird, that we make them uncomfortable. People are telling us that they don't want to see our religious garb and expressions. That's what's happening in France. France doesn't want any outward signs that you have a religion. So you can't wear a Star of David to work or to university or to public school, or if you have a government job. And there are parts of Canada where this is true too. They don't want to see outward expressions of religion because it makes people feel put upon. It makes people feel pressured. And pressured to do what? Shit, it's my religion. It ain't yours. And that is one of the most beautiful things about Islam is that it teaches that the religion of Islam, it belongs to the Muslim. It doesn't belong to the non-Muslim. So there's nothing I can do to you as far as my religion is concerned, because it's mine. And again, one of the things I love about this country, there are very few things, but this is it. I can practice my religion as I want to. And I don't have to worry about someone putting their religion on me. Although there are those in state governments and the federal government who would try to put their religion on you. We're not going to let it happen. No one should be forced to practice a religion they don't want to practice. And on the flip side, if you want to practice a religion, you should be able to practice your religion. But I'm not going to put my religion on you. These are my rules, not yours. So what you see me wearing a hijab, so what you see homeboy over here with the yarmulke on, so what? How does that hurt you? I don't understand how that hurts you to just see someone wearing something. Unless religion itself offends you. And I know that in France, that is not the case. People are religious in France. People are religious in India. But that's just it. It's the religion that they hate. People hate Judaism as much as they hate Islam. And the Hindus of India, they hate Islam so much. They hate Islam so much. I could do a whole series of podcasts on the religious injustices Muslims have faced in India just for being Muslim. Muslims are hated, even though they're Indian. It's the fact that they're Muslim. Muslims who eat cows. Cows are sacred to Hindus. They ain't sacred to us. But that's just it. People want to impose their religious rule on you because it makes them comfortable. It makes them feel good to have everyone practicing the way that they practice. It scares them that anyone would veer from that. It scares them that people would believe something different. And I'll say this about Islamic fundamentalists too. Islamic extremism. The presence of another religion in their country, in their sites, in their midst. Ugh. So fucking what if they want to be Christian? Who cares? Iran and Iraq, they expel their Christians. Why? Those people have a right to their religion just like you do. And this, I understand why people say they don't like organized religion because it's so divisive. It's used to oppress people. I see why. I see why. But I love my religion. I'm not going to use it to oppress anyone, not even myself. God hates oppressors. Period. And that's anywhere, in anything. All of this language that we're using against Black women, telling us that we have to be a certain way or look a certain way to be accepted. And if we don't look that way, that we're not going to be accepted by the larger community, or that we're not going to be taken seriously by white people. That's oppression. It's making Black women feel that we have to conform or else. To Black women, I say, as I said to Muslim women, you do not have to conform. And if you feel like you have to conform, try removing yourself from the place or the person who is telling you that you have to do that. And I know there are places where this is very difficult, and there are people having to make some very difficult decisions about how they want to dress. There are Muslim women who are making some very difficult decisions about, do they want to keep their job or do they want to wear their hijab? And I pray for them. I do. Because that is not a choice any woman should have to make. It's not a choice that anyone should have to make. Following their Lord's guidance or keeping a job at a university or government building. Muslims in China, not allowed to fast. If they work for the government, they are not allowed to fast. There is no Islam in China. If you're Muslim and you're in China, I mean, as much as they can contain it, they will. And it sickens me that people are not freely allowed to live and love and practice how they want, and that those ranks are trying to close in on the democracy of the United States. It sickens me. Because really, there are few havens of freedom left on this earth. There are fewer and fewer places where people are free to live and love and worship and dress and act and speak and work as they want. And, hijab is one of those things about Islam that people find difficult to decipher. Why would a woman want to do that? Why would a woman want to cover? She must be oppressed. And I hope I've answered that question. Yes and no. I mean, when it comes down to it, God tells us in the Quran to cover those parts which are not readily visible. Cover your arms, leave your hands and your face uncovered, leave your feet uncovered. But hey, if you can't do it, you can't do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. I'm not going to beat you over the head because you don't want to do it or you can't do it. It's not for everybody. It really is not. It's not for everybody. When you go into a masjid, you have to cover because that is, showing respect to the arena that you're in. But there are churches, old Christian churches around the world where it's the same. You have to cover your head with a scarf, just a little scarf, to go in and listen to the sermons or pray or light a candle. So why is it so strange that a woman would want to cover in public all the time? There was a time when women wore bonnets all the time. They wore scarves all the time. Just because that has fallen out of favor doesn't mean that women who want to do it should stop doing it. It's pretty remarkable how we will support women's choice to remove every article of clothing and be butt-ass naked on the beach. But women who want to cover, who want to dress modestly, are looked at as if we're weird, as if we are, is there someone at home telling you have to do this? As if we're being abused. There are women who are not covered who are being, treated poorly. And there are women who are covered who are being treated poorly. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. Because any woman could easily leave her home and take her scarf off. Any woman could easily leave her home and put it back on. That's not what this is about. No, I knew I was going to do this. I knew there was a reason why I was struggling to write my script for this, is because I wanted to speak more freely than speaking from a script, because this is something I'm very, very passionate about, something that I have a lot of opinions on, and everything I wanted to say is inside of me. It's inside my head, and I needed to get it out. And I'm looking at my script for this episode. I'm like, wow, I wrote all of this. And I didn't say any of this. But it was good that I was able to come up with this outline. And now I've spoken for over an hour. And it's time for me to get off here and let you guys mull over the things that I've said. And remember, just the fundamental. No one should ever be told to cover or else. No one should ever be told to uncover or else. Everyone should find their own path to doing the right thing. I mean, we have the proper guidance. We have the best guidance. And for Black women, I mean, we know we've been told who, what, when, where for hundreds of years, and we're not doing it anymore. We're not taking it anymore. And people feel so threatened when women decide that they're not taking their shit anymore. It should make you feel good. Instead, it makes you scared. Well, you're going to have to get over it. You're going to have to get over it. Find your voice. Find your voice. Find a voice that does not include berating and subjugating women and being mean and nasty to women for the choices that we make. Find a voice that does not involve oppressing women. And this has been Ayana Explains It All, brought to you by facts, figures, and enlightenment. Take care.